Welcome, Bitcoiners. Welcome, traders. Welcome, supporters. Welcome, followers. Welcome, haters. Welcome to all of you. Welcome once again to another live space with Oliver Velez. Of course, my name is Oliver Velez, and what I'm trying to do here is be your Bitcoiner for life. That's what I'm trying to be. Once again, welcome. I want to thank each and every one of you for joining me on these live spaces. I typically do not draw a large audience here, but that's okay as long as I can, in my opinion, help spread the gospel of Bitcoin to only one. If I were to only do that to one person, it would be enough, in my opinion. But thanks for attending. I do want you to also know that during my live spaces, I do not pass the mic, so your request to receive the mic in one form or another will be for naught. I find that my form of delivering my information, the knowledge that I have, the limited knowledge that I have, I feel that the style in which I do that is best done in the form of a monologue. And your questions throughout that monologue or after will certainly be handled. I also want to let you know that each one of my live spaces does actually wind up on my Bitcoin podcast called Bitcoin Unleashed. Bitcoin Unleashed can be found on every single podcast medium out there, so pick the poison of your choice. I actually like the Fountain app because Fountain allows me to take various clips from these long-form talks that we have here, shorter clips, so that it makes the information and the knowledge we share here a lot more digestible. All right, so search that out, Bitcoin Unleashed. I'm sure you'll find a great deal of value from the talks that we've had there. Traders, Bitcoiners, I wanted to talk about a topic that I'm sure you realize is probably the number one topic that comes up whenever the topic Bitcoin comes up. It's Bitcoin's volatility. And I will tell you that in my 3+ years of attempting to spread the gospel of Bitcoin, attempting to orange people all over the world, I travel all over the world preaching the gospel of Bitcoin. Throughout 3+ years of doing so, the number one thing that has come up, the number one deterrent to people even considering Bitcoin as a viable choice for them, as a viable savings technology for them, as a viable investment, is Bitcoin's volatility. And I, for one, think this is wrong. And so I want to have a talk about Bitcoin's volatility. And I want to try to convince you, if you aren't already convinced, that Bitcoin's volatility is a feature and not a bug. It's a plus and not a minus. It's a benefit to Bitcoin and to us all. And it's not a negative in any way to us all. I believe that Bitcoin's volatility is a form of Bitcoin's benevolence. But at the same time, admittedly so, my talk is going to be somewhat paradoxical, because while I'm going to convince you or try to convince you that Bitcoin's volatility is Bitcoin's benevolence, while I'm going to try to convince you that Bitcoin's volatility is a plus and not a negative, I am also going to try to convince you that Bitcoin doesn't have volatility at all. And so while this might sound initially as being paradoxical, as being conflictory in nature, by the end of our talk here, I'm hoping that you see how it's really not. So let's start. Let's dig in. What exactly do I mean by Bitcoin doesn't have volatility? Because I believe this to be true, that Bitcoin isn't actually volatile itself. What people refer to when they speak about Bitcoin's volatility is that they're referring to the monetary unit that they are measuring Bitcoin in as being volatile. So Bitcoin is always Bitcoin. Let's establish that as the basis of our talk. One Bitcoin will always equal one Bitcoin. That will never change. Bitcoin, on average, will produce a new block. It will get taller, it will get longer, it will get stronger every single 10 minutes of its life. That is not volatile. Bitcoin doesn't change its monetary policy. Its monetary policy is mapped out all the way to the year 2140. That is not volatile. One Bitcoin is always equal to one Bitcoin in the Bitcoin ecosystem. That is not volatile. Bitcoin has delivered on every single one of its promises from day one, and nearly 15 years later, it has never failed and has never been sick at sea. That is not volatile. Bitcoin is not volatile. Bitcoin, in its true essence, is the antithesis of volatility. Bitcoin is not uncertain. In fact, Bitcoin is the most certain thing we have ever been exposed to in the history of mankind, in my opinion. So while I'm going to talk about the fact that Bitcoin's volatility is a plus, I do want to establish the fact that when you lift the curtain and look at it truly, Bitcoin is not volatile at all. Bitcoin has no volatility. So when people speak about Bitcoin being volatile, what exactly are they really pointing to? They're pointing to the fact that it's the US dollar that is the volatile one. You see, if one Bitcoin is always equal to one Bitcoin, then that can't be volatile. But if you view that one Bitcoin through the eyes of something else, through the lens of something else, and that lens shows you volatility, then it is not the item itself that is volatile, but yet the lens that you are using to view the item with. Okay? So it is the US dollar's opinion of Bitcoin that is volatile. Sometimes the US dollar believes that one Bitcoin is worth $16,000. On another occasion, the US dollar deems its value, the value of one Bitcoin, to be $39,000. It is not that one Bitcoin has changed. It is that the dollar's opinion of Bitcoin has changed. It is that the dollar's view of Bitcoin has changed. But the item that the dollar is measuring, the item that the dollar is attempting to measure, the item that the dollar is looking at, the view or the opinion of that dollar is actually what is volatile. It is the weaker item that is uncertain of what this is. Bitcoin is the stronger item. The dollar, the fiat currency, the lens through which you're viewing the stronger item is the weaker, that weaker one is the uncertain one. And so what we're doing when we look at one Bitcoin and we seek out the opinion of our monetary unit. Those in Turkey are using the Turkish lira to look at one Bitcoin. We in the United States are using the US dollar to look at one Bitcoin. Those in Argentina are using the Argentinian peso to look at one Bitcoin. And each one of those lenses, each one of those monetary units, they have a different opinion of what one Bitcoin is. But the opinions, as differing as they are, as different as they are, doesn't change the fact that one Bitcoin is one Bitcoin is one Bitcoin is one Bitcoin. So let's understand what we mean by Bitcoin has volatility. That's not true. The monetary unit has volatility. One Bitcoin is always one Bitcoin. So in this way, viewed from this way, Bitcoin is not volatile at all. It is the most unvolatile thing we have at our disposal. It is the most certain thing in the universe today. In fact, it is so certain that we distrust it because we've never had something as certain as this. It is so true that we mistrust its truth because we have been accustomed to things not being true, things not being stable, things not being real, things not being trustworthy. And it's because of this that we cast our doubts on the most certain thing that's ever come into our existences. Once again, Bitcoin has never broken a promise. Bitcoin's never altered or changed its monetary policy. Bitcoin has given us its pay scale and its monetary policy all the way out to the year 2140. Bitcoin has never stopped delivering a new block on average every 10 minutes of its life. And over the past 10 years, it's never been down, not for a single second, not for a single nanosecond. It's never failed at what it's come to do. It is the most stable and most unvolatile thing that we've ever had the privilege or the ability to gain access to. So that's the first thing I wanted to establish. That while I'm going to do a talk on Bitcoin's volatility, I want you to understand the true nature of where that volatility comes from. It does not come from Bitcoin. It comes from the monetary unit you choose to look at one Bitcoin. And it is that monetary unit that can't make up its mind what one Bitcoin is. It is that monetary unit that flip-flops and changes back and forth. On one day, your monetary unit says it's 16,000. On another day, it says it's 39,000. And on another day, it might say it's 400,000. So let's understand what we mean by Bitcoin, by volatility. When we talk about volatility, it is the monetary unit that is volatile, that is trying to figure out what is this foreign thing. Now, with all of that being said, let us take the volatility, the subject, the topic, understanding where it comes from. Let's take it and run with it. Okay. Volatility is vitality. I'm going to repeat that 2 more times. Volatility is vitality. One last time. Volatility is vitality. And what is vitality? Vitality is life. Volatility is the proof that something is alive, that it is kicking, and it is well. You see, a dead man is not volatile at all. And that which is not volatile is actually dead. I'm always telling people, you do not want to see the day Bitcoin is not volatile through the eyes of your monetary unit. That volatility that you're seeing through your monetary unit signifies that Bitcoin is vibrant. That volatility signifies that Bitcoin is alive. That volatility signifies that it is growing, getting bigger, better, stronger. That volatility is the indication that it is being adopted, because no adoption can occur without volatility. It is the number one sign that something is vital, that something is vibrant, that's something alive. And anything that is not volatile is dead. This is a universal law. I will also say that volatility, which is vitality in life, is the indication that it is also young, because a dead man is not volatile. And oftentimes we associate death with old age. And so, just as one becomes less volatile in his or her life, the older he or she gets. And just as one was more vital and more alive and more volatile when they were young in their life, vitality or volatility is also the indication of youth. We don't want Bitcoin to already be old. We want Bitcoin to still be youthful. We want Bitcoin to still be in its early stages. This is where the opportunity is. And so if volatility is the significance that something is young, if volatility signifies that something is vital and alive and early, it means that volatility is a positive, not a negative. You see, I was a lot more volatile at 12, 13, 14, 15 years old than I am at close to 60 now. I will be 58 years old next year. And I promise you, I am a lot less volatile today than I was when I was 15. You are less volatile today than you were at 15 as well. Well, some of you might be 15 listening to me, but you understand what I'm saying. Volatility is the sign of life, vitality. It is also the sign of youth, because the natural laws dictate that as something gets older, it naturally becomes less volatile. We don't want Bitcoin to become less volatile at this stage. I don't have enough. I know you don't have enough. I still want it to be early. I still want it to be young in Bitcoin's adoption curve. I still want it to be early in Bitcoin's life. We are blessed because we are in the volatile times of Bitcoin. Volatility in this nature, volatility in this case, volatility in this way is a feature. It is not a bug. Gold today is approaching 6,000 years as a viable asset that's been used as a form of money. 6,000 years old. Its volatility is practically nil. It is not zero, but it is practically nil. And quite naturally so, because it's almost 6,000 years old. Bitcoin is 15 years old. It is natural and desirous for Bitcoin to be a lot more volatile than gold. It's the baby. It's the new kid on the block. Gold is the senior citizen in the room. And Bitcoin is that 15-year-old vibrant star that is not only taking over from the 95-year-old guy in the room, but will totally dwarf the 95-year-old guy in the room. Gold is not volatile today, therefore it lacks vitality. It does have stability, and there is a certain element of certainty to its existence. I give honor to gold for that. I spent the vast majority of my adult life as a gold bug. You can't tell me more about gold than I already know. but I do understand its place in the overall evolutionary cycle of things. And it is closer to the end of its life as a useful, viable monetary unit than it is to the middle of its life. If gold were closer to its middle, you would have to say that it has another 6,000 years in front of it. And we know that not to be true. So if it is not closer to its middle, it certainly can't be closer to its beginning. It's 6,000 years old. And if it's not closer to its beginning, nor is it closer to its middle, it must be closer to its end. It is Bitcoin that is closer to its beginning. You can't say that Bitcoin is closer to its middle. It's 15 years old. Assets don't work that way. Assets don't have a lifespan of 30 years. Silver is 9,000 years old. Gold is 6,000 years old. Bonds are 600 years old. 600. The equity market as we know it today, the stock market, that's over 200 years old. Even assets last longer than 30 years. So how can we say Bitcoin is closer to the middle of its life or the end of its life when most assets last millennia, hundreds of years? Apple is almost 50 years old. Microsoft is upwards of 47, 48 years old. Even Google is 25 years old. Amazon's 27 years old. Bitcoin is the baby on the block. And so therefore, the baby on the block will always be more volatile. My first foray into Amazon as the wealth play of my life occurred in 2003. I brought thousands of traders with me on this Amazon play, as I did with Bitcoin in March of 2020. I brought thousands of traders into the Amazon play. I told them that you don't understand that this is going to eat the world. Amazon is going to eat the world. Why? Because Amazon is digitizing shelf space. And this is how I explained it to them. I explained to them that Walmart has physical spaces and needs managers to determine what items go on their limited shelf space. But Amazon doesn't have a limit to its shelf space. It doesn't need to turn down products because its shelf space is limited. Amazon has digital shelf space. Amazon has unlimited shelf space, so is ultimately going to put everything on planet Earth on those digital shelf space. It is going to be the retailer of the world. I saw this early in the 2000s, and we struck at $7.50 without not split adjusted, but $7.50 in the year 2003. And Amazon soared to nearly $4,000 a share before it split. But I tell you this story to tell you that the vast majority of the traders that I brought into this Amazon trade in 2003, they failed to hold on. A small portion did. They failed to hold on through the years, through the decades. Which was the plan? The plan was never to sell it. The plan was to hold on. The plan was to use it at some point in the future to put your kids through school. The plan was to hold Amazon out for the future because it had 20 to 30 years of adoption in front of it. And I have to tell you that over 80% of the people sold it because of its early volatility, because of its early vitality. There is not a single year in my holding of Amazon, and I will be honest with you and tell you that I sold the last of my Amazon in the year 2021, and I sold it for Bitcoin. But I held on through those years, and there's not a single year that I did not have to live through a 30% or better pullback. There were years I lived through 80% pullbacks, 60% pullbacks, but there's not a single year I did not have to live through a 30% or better pullback. And from the TradFi or the traditional finance point of view, the definition of a bear market is a better than 20% correction. I lived through a bear market every single year of my life holding on to Amazon, and I never let it go because I understood that volatility was vitality. I understood that the volatility meant that we're still early, and it's only when that volatility starts to wane. It is only when that vitality starts to dwindle that you can start to say maturity is starting to set in. I did not want maturity set in from the start. But as Amazon began to stabilize, mature, and become less and less volatile, I decided to use 2021 as the opportunity to convert the entirety of that value that had been built up into Amazon in Bitcoin. I did the same with gold in the same year. So, my point is that we should be looking at volatility as a gift because the volatility is the sign that we're still early. And that's one of the greatest things we have to answer about this asset called Bitcoin. Are we early or is it a bubble? Are we early or is it a fad? Are we early or is it near its end? And I'm here to tell you, with only 0.5% of the world having adopted it, we are extraordinarily early and therefore should welcome the volatility that comes with being early. I mentioned earlier in my talk that Bitcoin's volatility is its benevolence. And this is how I encourage my followers and my traders to view this, that it gives us the opportunity to jump on board its train every single 4 years. It demonstrates its luster. It demonstrates that it will not break its promise. It demonstrates its certainty. It demonstrates its power, its strength, its upside velocity. And yet, we still doubt. It gives us 3 years every 4 year cycle to show us what it is, to build our confidence in it. And one of those 4 years, it comes back for us. It uses volatility to come back. It drops 78% from its highs, as if to come back to, as if to say, do you believe me now? I've come back for you. Imagine a train that's taking you to freedom, and you're doing everything you possibly can to make this train. But almost as soon as you get to the train, you see the doors shut and the train takes off. You've missed it. You've missed the train that was there to take you away to freedom. Dejected on the platform, depressed, all of a sudden, you realize the train is coming back for you. The same train that was designed to deliver you to freedom. It comes all the way back, opens its doors, and say, now will you join? This is how I view Bitcoin's volatility today. I view it as it coming back for us. I view it as a second chance. I view it as an opportunity for me and you to do what we should have done 4 years ago. We should have bought more if we bought. If we didn't buy, we should have bought. If we didn't get on, we should have gotten on. And if we got on, we shouldn't have just put one shoe on or one foot on. We should have put our whole body and our whole self on to the freedom train. It comes back to us over and over again, but it never comes back at the same price. There is a cost to be paid for taking the second chance versus the first chance. There is a cost to be paid, a higher cost to be paid to take the third chance because you missed the second chance. Each one of those benevolent acts on the part of Bitcoin to come back for us will require that we step up and pay a higher price. But that pullback, that comeback, that volatile drop that so many of us still view as negative is, in my opinion, the act of Bitcoin's benevolence. And this is how we should view it. I told the story on, I believe, my last podcast, or one of my more recent podcasts or talks. And I told the story of how I let go of thousands of Bitcoin before I really realized what this was. And upon seeing and understanding the mistake that I made, I went on a multi-year tear to get all of those Bitcoin back. And it kept running away from me. It was only after chasing Bitcoin from 14,500 all the way to 69,000. I chased it from 14 to 69,000. I still did not have all the Bitcoin I sold between 10 and 14,000. And it was only Bitcoin's bear market. It was only Bitcoin's volatility to the downside. It was only Bitcoin's drop that allowed me to redeem myself. That was Bitcoin's benevolence. I had to pay what some might consider an astronomically bigger price to get the same thing back. But I was glad to pay it. I was simply glad to get every single Satoshi back, because I actually thought that I was going to become a meme. I thought I was going to become one of those historical figures that had thousands upon thousands of Bitcoin and would only have a story about it to tell 10 years from now, 20 years from now, of how much I had, but let go. I did not want to be that meme. I did not want to be one of those characters I read about in the past. And it's only because of Bitcoin's volatility. It's only because of Bitcoin's bear market. It's only because of Bitcoin's vitality that I was given a second chance. And I thank it for it. Bitcoin's volatility is not a bug. It is a feature. Bitcoin's volatility is not negative. It is positive. Bitcoin's volatility is its benevolence for us. I would also like to say this, that I have been in the financial space for the last 43 years of my life. I don't really know anything else. I have traded financial markets, in particular the equity markets, virtually every market open day of my entire existence since the year 1981. I am what is commonly referred to as an OG in this space. But I tell you that to say that in all of my experience, my 4 decade plus period of experience, what I've come to realize is that that which is not volatile, that which is not vital, is actually manipulated. That which is stable by falsity. That which is non-volatile, lacks volatility, that promises something stable, that promises something that won't go up and down very much, is false. It's a man-made stability because in truth, financial markets can't be stable. Financial markets that are not controlled can't be stable. There is no such thing as a stable coin unless it's manipulated and controlled by someone else. You can't have a stable currency unless your currency is controlled or manipulated by a small group of people. Because if left to the free market, it must have volatility. If left to its own devices, it must have movement, it must have life. And so I have learned that every single financial item that promises a lack of volatility, that promises stability, is fake. It's a man-made stability. It means that it's manipulated by someone, it's controlled by someone, because free markets aren't stable and never will be. Bitcoin is the freest market that we have ever come in contact with, that's ever been made available to us. It trades 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year, and it does so without any human intervention whatsoever. It is free. It is independent of the control of any human being, any group, any organization, or any country. It is left to its own devices. It does not coerce. It does not command or demand that you play. It is simply always there and available for us to partake of. But because of that freedom, because it's not controlled by another human being, because it's not manipulated by a small group somewhere, it will always have some degree of volatility. It will always have vitality. And so this is the epiphany I've had from dealing with financial markets my entire adult life, is that if it's not volatile, it's fake. If it doesn't move very much, it is manipulated and controlled. And haven't we had enough of that? Aren't we tired of dealing with items that are marketed to us as being safe, as being true, as being real, only to realize that they're not real, that they're basically controlled, manipulated by an elite few? This is what Bitcoin has come to free us from, by delivering something that is available to every single human being on earth without permission, yet is outside of the hands and the control of any human being on earth. Bitcoin's volatility is a feature, my friends. It is not a bug. Bitcoin's volatility is a sign that it is real, that it is a true, free, unmanipulated market. Bitcoin's volatility is a sign that it is vital, that it is alive and well. It is also it also signifies that it is young and has a long long life ahead of itself. So it is my wish, my desire, that you stop looking at Bitcoin's volatility as some negative, that you embrace the volatility, that you utilize every single benevolent act on its part to come back and give you the opportunity to do what you should have done last time. I should have bought more Bitcoin at 15,000, but I was like everyone else waiting for a pullback and missed it. I should have bought more Bitcoin at $20,000, but didn't because I was waiting for a pullback and missed it. And Bitcoin came all the way back to not only 20,000, it actually broke below 16,000 to give me my opportunity in those price ranges to do what I should have done the first time anyway. And so if I have one wish here today, it is to have you view its volatility as its benevolence and not as some nemesis to be scared of, to be frightened of. Bitcoin is mathematically designed to be higher in value every 4 years of its life. And I'm here to tell you that Bitcoin will be more valuable every 4 years of your life until you die. In fact, beyond your death. It will be more valuable every 4 years of its life throughout your entire life, throughout the lives of your children, their children, and children not even thought about being born yet. It's mathematically designed to be so. And we can place our trust in math. We can place our trust and confidence in the certainty of the laws of the universe, which is what mathematics are based on. Sorry about the dogs in the background, guys. Sorry about that. So there you have it, guys. Sorry about that. Do not disrespect. Give me just a moment here, guys. Space. Sorry, guys. Sorry about that. Okay. Do not disrespect. It is my wish that you do not disrespect the greatest wealth opportunity that I believe we've ever had in perhaps the history of the world. It is my hope that you don't disrespect it because it's vital, because if it's alive, because of its benevolent act one time out of every 4 years to come back for you. All right, guys, that's it. I know it's Sunday. I didn't want to keep you long, but I did want to talk about this most brought up topic about Bitcoin and to basically squash this nonsense that because Bitcoin is volatile, it can't be this, or because Bitcoin is volatile, it is bad. This is the old brainwashing to get us to go toward things that are manipulated and controlled by other men. And it's time for us to stop buying into that. All right. Oh, wow. Thank you very much, Peter. Peter Dunworth just sent me a message and says, jumped on your spaces, but have to head off Just wanted to let you know it is a pleasure listening to you. I appreciate that. Brilliant, articulate, love listening to you. Sorry I had to leave. No worries. Thank you very much, Peter Dunworth. Guys, if you do not follow Peter Dunworth, he is a wealth of information. Um, I call Peter Dunworth the locked Bitcoin specialist. I've learned more about locked Bitcoin, its benefits, and how Bitcoin is a three point or triple point asset from Peter than anyone. He's definitely been a force in my journey. And I strongly encourage that you follow Peter Dunworth and definitely look into locked Bitcoin and how that is going to become the most pristine form of an asset that we have today. It's very, very powerful. Thank you very much, Peter. Okay, let's see. Any questions? Let's see if there are any questions that you have for me. Let's see here. I'm going to go to your. I usually don't get a lot of questions from you, and as I mentioned on many occasions, I used to take that as a negative, but now I take it as a positive. It means that I guess I'm so thorough with my talks that I answer most of your questions in advance. So I'm an optimist at heart. So that view is a bit more digestible to me. Rico says, Oliver, you are very vocal against trading Bitcoin, which is an advice I follow. But what do you think about trading micro-strategy stock? Thanks. It is true, Rico, that I am against trading freedom. There are things that are tradable, usually things that are quite mature in their cycle of life. These things often become tradable, but there are other things that should not be traded. Things such as independence, you should never trade your independence for being a slave. Freedom is not something that you trade, in my opinion. And I believe that anyone who is still trading Bitcoin fails to understand what the asset is. And it is why I fight so vehemently as a trader myself, a professional trader that has been hailed in the industry more than any other trader you can point to, guys. I do not talk a lot about that this here, but I have more accolades as a professional trader than anyone you can point to. And yet I'm the one telling you that it is wrong to trade Bitcoin. I'm the one that probably can trade it better than you. I'm the one telling you that you don't trade Bitcoin because Bitcoin is freedom, that you trade every single thing else for freedom, for Bitcoin. And people find this strange, and I don't understand why they find it strange, because you trade everything in your life for the US dollar. All I'm telling you is to swap the US dollar for Bitcoin and trade everything else in your life for Bitcoin, because Bitcoin is better than the dollar. You trade your time for dollars. You trade your skill for dollars. You trade stocks for dollars. You trade everything else in your life for dollars, but it's somehow strange when I say trade everything in your life for Bitcoin, because Bitcoin is exponentially more superior than dollars, that dollars are debased on you, and the purchasing power of dollars declines every single second like a freaking melting ice cube in your hand, in your pocket. And it's strange to you that I say, don't trade Bitcoin, trade everything else for Bitcoin. Stop using the US dollar as your unit of account and swap it for Bitcoin as your unit of account, and your life will be changed. And so Rico asking me, what do I think about trading micro-strategy stock? MicroStrategy is not Bitcoin. Trade it to your heart's content. Trade everything else to your heart's content, guys, as long as you do it responsibly and well. but traded for Bitcoin. We have our whole lives experience trading everything that we have, everything that we are for a failing item, fiat currency. It's failed us, people. A dollar 10 years ago does not buy what a dollar buys today. Whose fault is that? Yours? No, it's failed you. It's failed me. And it is time, it is high time to replace the failing item with what has never failed us and what will never fail us. And so every single time I see someone leading a herd of people to trading this, it burns me up. It angers me. It is by no fault of their own, but I see the faulty narrative. You have a billion other things to trade. And on top of that, it is mathematically impossible to trade consistently well an 80 vol asset. Bitcoin is an 80 vol asset. You don't get away from that math. I'm telling you, anyone, listen to me carefully. I don't care who their name is. I don't care what their following is. I don't care how many views they get. I am telling you, if someone has told you that they successfully trade Bitcoin all the time, you can just paint the letter L on their forehead and know they're a liar, because math is math. And an 80 vol asset cannot mathematically be traded successfully over time. It is impossible. Guys, I'm a 40-year plus trading veteran. I was ranked #1 in the United States by Barron's. I showed you the receipts right here. And I'm telling you that you cannot trade Bitcoin successfully over any decent period of time. Can you get lucky? Yes. But the 80 vol nature of Bitcoin ultimately wins. It is like the ultimate casino. If you stay there in the casino betting long enough, the 80 vol asset nature of Bitcoin will destroy you. And so you can be rest assured, if someone claims to be trading it back and forth and being successful all the time, they're a fucking liar. Because it doesn't work that way. It's a person who doesn't understand math, but is trying to sell you a story. Doesn't work that way. Yes, trade MicroStrategy stock all you want. Trade the Bitcoin miners all you want. There are very decent plays that we make in the Bitcoin miners. We have a play on right now in MicroStrategy stock. Trade the Bitcoin ETFs. Hedge your bets if you like with the Bitcoin ETFs. Stay long Bitcoin, and if you think Bitcoin has topped out at the end of 2025, go short with the Bitcoin ETFs. Do all of that. That's all okay. Just don't trade Bitcoin. That's like a slave wanting to slip out of his freedom and go back to slavery. It's stupid, it's dumb, and I don't care who disagrees with me. That's the absolute truth. All right, good question, Rico. Derek says, I have a Yorkie that doesn't stop barking. All right. Stan is saying, Oliver, this is timely. Over what do you think a large bid at 12,000 BTC? So Stan is posting something really interesting here. He's posting an image that is showing that there exists a bid for a Bitcoin, 4,500 Bitcoin at 12,000. Um, I would I would suggest that that bid is absolutely meaningless. I can place a bid at 3,000, 3,500, like one bozo was predicting. All right. Um, the bid doesn't really mean anything. In my early days of trading, spoofing, there was this activity that's labeled spoofing was not illegal. It is illegal today. And I used to spoof traders all the time. We typically spoofed retail oriented traders before the market opened. And the way you spoof a market is that bids, you place bids in a market that you have no intention of filling. So, as an example, all right, a stock is indicated to open down $10. Stock closed at $50 yesterday. This morning, 20 minutes before the market opens, it's indicated to open down $10, a $10 gap down. There are people that are stuck in that gap. There are people that are going to lose $10 per share in the gap if it opens there. And so this would usually be our opportunity to spoof some retail traders. What we would do is place bids at down $5 instead of $10. We'd bid higher. And knowing that retail traders would rush to try to get filled and narrow their loss to $5, and we'd pull the bids we'd pull the fake bids and have the real bid below it to collect their shares, because many retail market participants throw market orders at these bids instead of limit orders. And so the market order would shoot for my bid that was $5 higher, miss, and go straight to my bid that was only $2 higher. And we used to spoof the market. Another way I used to spoof the market is I used to put several million shares on an offer. The same way this image is 4,500 Bitcoin on the bid below the market, I would put millions of shares on the offer a dollar above the market, having no intentions of that being filled, but just to show the world that there's a lot of supply. Traders and market participants that saw several $1,000,000 pop up on the offer would start selling the stock right into my bids. I would buy what they sold, knowing that I caused their selling to hit my bid by showing them a big offer I never intended to be real. That's called spoofing the market. Spoofing today in the equity market is illegal, but it is not illegal in the cryptocurrency space. And there's a great deal of spoofing that goes on. In fact, a lot of Bitcoin whales use this technique called spoofing to get you to give up your Bitcoin. They will show a lot of sell orders above the market that really they're just showing you so that you get freaked out to sell to them. They're waiting below the market for you to sell to them. And they're only showing that they are willing to sell at 40,000. They might stack a bunch of Bitcoin orders to sell at 40,000. You see those and say there's resistance at 40,000. I'm selling at 39,000, and they're picking up the Bitcoin that you're selling at 39 because you're scared of their offers at 40,000. This is called spoofing. It's illegal in the equity market today. It was taken from us professional traders. We used to use it as a tool. It was made illegal. It's still legal in the cryptocurrency space. And so I would simply not pay too much attention to these orders, because in reality, you have to think about this. Why would a big player want to be visible? when they don't have to be. You got to think about that. Why would they be visible if they don't have to be? When you're trading over the counter, you're not visible. Why are they now showing it? It is statistically proven that if you go the opposite of what's shown, you have a greater statistical chance of being right. So if a lot of orders are visible to be sold by big players, statistically, you'll be more right by buying over time and vice versa. So don't pay too much attention to these orders. A lot of them might be spoofing orders. And the very showing of this order of 4,500 Bitcoin at 12,000 seems more like a trick to me. They want us talking about this, and they want the naive to stay out of the market. Oh my God, a big player must think Bitcoin's going to 12,000. Let me step to the sidelines for now. Ridiculous. And the last thing I will say about this, I truly believe that these prices don't matter. That the best thing you can do is just not worry about price. It's too early in the adoption curve for price to be relevant here, guys. Price will get you in trouble. It is going to be asinine to someone in the future when you tell them, yeah, I was waiting for Bitcoin was at 39. I was waiting for it to go to 36 before I bought and I missed it. That is going to appear asinine to someone 5 years from now. It's the same way that we regard as being ridiculous someone who was saying, yeah, you know what, I missed a bunch of Bitcoin. I wanted to buy it at 39 cents, but I was waiting for it to go to 36 cents and I actually missed it. I could have had thousands of Bitcoin, but I missed it and it rocketed to $3. And I certainly wasn't going to buy it at $3 when I had the ability to buy it at 39 cents. So I let it go. I believe that waiting for small change like that is stupid and will be viewed as such 5 years from now, 10 years from now. Price doesn't matter when only 0.5% of the world has adopted Bitcoin. It doesn't freaking matter now. It didn't matter in 2003 whether I bought Amazon at $7.50 or tried to wait for $7.20. That sounds ridiculous when it reached almost $4,000 a share. That's dumb. It's stupid. We're too early for price to be a concern. I don't care whether it's 69,000 or 6,000. That range, as big as you feel that is going to look as small as 69 cents versus 15 cents in the past. It's too early in the adoption curve for price to matter to you. Bi-weekly and frickin' chill, and price is irrelevant. At this stage, anyway. All right. Good questions, though. Good questions here. Derek is asking, will the next pullback in or around 2025 be around 30,000? Well, that's very, Derek, wait a minute. Let me go. I think I have my crystal ball right over here. Let me go grab it and dust it off and see what it says. Come on, how can I know this? And anyone claims to know these things is a buffoon. I don't know. Because in order to determine where the bottom is likely to be next cycle, you have to already know the top. Once you know that Bitcoin's topped out, you can come up with a general range of where the bottom should be based on all other historical drops. We know that Bitcoin every single 4 years drops 1 year out of the 4 years. We know this is a fact. We know that each one of those drops gets less deep, is more shallow than the previous one. So if the previous drop, Derek, that we had in 2022, if the previous drop, right, occurred, if the previous drop was 78%, then the next drop is going to be a bit shallower than that. So let's say 72%. So as long as you get that general area, you're likely to be more correct. But in order to come up with those numbers, you have to know Bitcoin's top first. And it's impossible to know Bitcoin's top. I will tell you this, that I believe that there are odds for Bitcoin's next run, this next 2 years in front of us, guys, this next 2 years, not 12 years from now. 2 years starting from 2024, the entirety of 2024, the entirety of 2025. I believe that these 2 years have the possibility of being the most vibrant, the most violent, the most powerful 2-year period Bitcoin has ever had in its entire 15-year history. The stars and all the planets are aligning it to be so. Now, will that happen? Only time will tell. All I am is a professional probabilities reader, and I am telling you that with all the stars and the planets aligning, it is more probable that these next 2 years are more powerful than any other 2-year period in Bitcoin's history. And that's saying a lot. So what I am saying is that it is impossible to know where that blow off top is going to be. But there's some decent odds that it's going to be a lot higher than what most people are thinking. All right, let's see what else here, guys. Gail says, thanks for your time and knowledge. I appreciate that. Thank you for being here. All right. Ari says, yes, trade stocks, and with the gains, buy Bitcoin. That's what we do. That's what I do, guys, every single day. I can tell you that I have bought Bitcoin virtually every single day of my life. I would say starting from the year 2020, but not from my first buy, because I told you I sold a big portion of my Bitcoin like a freaking idiot. But I would say that starting from the last quarter of 2020, the year 2020, I can count on one hand how many days that I did not buy Bitcoin. When someone asks me, Oliver, what price did you buy Bitcoin? I always respond to them, all of them. And it confuses the questioner to no end. What do you mean? No, I'm asking you, where did you buy it? At what price? I bought all of them. What do you mean you bought all of them? I buy every single day. I bought all of them. Every single daily bar has the name etched on it, Oliver Velez. And I am fortunate enough to have a trading revenue stream that gives me the ability to do that. And so I teach my traders to do that. I encourage anyone, no matter what you do, if it can't be daily, and it doesn't necessarily have to be daily, it definitely should be weekly. And if it can't be weekly, it should be monthly, but something. And I will end on this point, right? Because I think it's important. I believe that not only should you ignore price, because we're too early for that, you should also ignore amounts. What I mean by ignoring amounts is don't allow yourself to be stopped because you don't feel that you have enough to put into Bitcoin. This is a fallacy. This is a mistake because we're so early. The smallest amounts today will become large in your lifetime, astronomically large, in my opinion. What a lot of people don't realize is that $1 put into Bitcoin in the year 2010 is almost $40 million today. Think about this. Look it up. You don't believe me? I'm not lying. I didn't make this up. $1 put into Bitcoin in 2010 is almost $40 million today. $1. It could have been, that number was so small in 2010 that it could have deterred a person from doing it, from saying, like, what is $1 going to do? And I believe that we're still so early that even $1 matters. Don't let this feeling that I don't have enough hurt you. We're still early enough where a dollar matters. We're still early enough where $10, $100 matters. If you got to put $1 in every single week, do it. If you've only got $100 a month, do it. Everyone listening to me here has those numbers. Don't let the seemingly smallness of what you have available, don't let it deter you. Don't make that mistake. All right, traders. Wow, 40,000. Yes, Bitcoin. Bitcoin was listening to our talk, guys. 40,000. 40,000. Boom. 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 See, that's what you got to love about being in Bitcoin, right? We love the red days and we love the up days too. Wow. 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 All right. Let me see how many people I have here. All right. I always look sort of at the end. Guys, I'm never looking at you while I talk, so I really don't ever really know this. But let me see. How many people do I have here? All right, let's see here. Oh, okay, not bad, not bad for a Sunday. Listen, I want to thank each and every one of you for attending. I'm always telling you that I try my best to respect your time because I know it's something you can never give up. If there's one thing on this earth, in my opinion, that's more valuable than Bitcoin, it is your time. You can never get it back. And all of us, we need to be really careful where we place that. The fact that you have shown up here today, whether you are listening to me live or at some point in the future in a recorded fashion, to give me your time means something to me. It is something that I try my darndest not to take for granted. And I made a promise over 3 decades ago when I started speaking and traveling the world talking on the topic of financial freedom and independence. I made a promise 3 decades ago that every time I'm afforded the opportunity to speak in front of an audience, to stand on a stage, at a podium, or speak in a mic, or in a live session like this here today, I will do my absolute best. I will do everything in my human power to deliver something of value, something that you potentially can use for the rest of your life. I hope in some small measure, in some small way, I've done that here today. And if I haven't, I promise you, I'm going to try to get better every single time. All right, Bitcoiners, you know what to do. Go to work. Go to work. Stack harder. Ciao for now. Boom.